The lack of spirituality in the line of Cain was rampant. Their accomplishments were worldly: construction, music, metalwork, and murder. Not that the first three are without value, but there was no emphasis on God. This is in contrast to the line of Seth, Genesis 5:2-32. Seth's name is likely a play on the Hebrew word for granted. That is, he was granted in the place of Abel. At last, Adam and Eve have a son again who makes spiritual sacrifices. It's only with the beginning of the godly line of Seth that mankind began to call on the name of the Lord. Throughout the generations of Cain, men and women had, quote, missed their devotional times with God. They had, quote, stopped going to church altogether. Their minds were on earthly things, Colossians 3:2. With Seth, there was hope again. And so we have two lines, two lineages. The righteous line of Seth, which is now rising up in the presence of the unrighteous line of Cain. There's some important lessons, several important lessons about sin and the dysfunction it always brings, that emerge from these chapters. 1, sin always drags us down. It doesn't lift us up. It creates a mindset of darkness and despair. There's no hope except false hope. Whereas sin drags us down, faith and a relationship with God do lift us up. Secondly, sin is perpetuated and propagated generation to generation. Like father, like son. This is not to deny the existence of free will, but there are very clear patterns we can see moving from generation to generation, and it takes a lot of energy and determination to break the cycle. We also see that there are two family lines. The line of Seth, which begins in 425 and is recounted in chapter 5, and the line of Cain. Families are different. There is such thing as a good family. There are solid families, and there are unstable, shaky families. And it has everything to do with the attitude towards truth, for morality, towards God, towards faith. Let's get into our present study by reading a bit about Seth. Then we'll proceed to one of his descendants, Enoch, and we'll culminate looking at the man on whom we'll focus in this lesson, Noah. Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and named him Seth, for she said, God has appointed me another child instead of Abel, because Cain killed him. To Seth also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. And at that time, people began to invoke the name of the Lord. Just an aside here, it's clear that in chapter 4, until this time, mankind had lost its faith. It doesn't say that Cain and his descendants never talked about God or never attended organized religious meetings, but they were not truly in connection, communication, and fellowship with their Lord. This changes, fortunately, with Seth. One person can make a difference.